This is episode 33 with Calida Taylor. This is the Sports Business Classroom audio experience. If you recognize the voice, let me put a name with it. I'm Bo Estes, a host on NBATV and an announcer on NBA.com, and I'm one of the instructors at SBC. Welcome to the show. Now, breaking into the world of sports can seem daunting, but if you're looking for a leg up, you've come to the right place. Each week, we talk to top-notch figures all across the industry to bring you lessons and advice to learn from. Thanks for spending some time with us today, and let the experience begin. Sports Business Classroom is an immersive sports business training and educational experience unlike any other. In addition to this podcast, SBC provides numerous opportunities for those looking to break into and grow in the world of professional sports. One opportunity that I'd specifically like to tell you about today is the Cba Mastery Course with none other than Larry Kuhn. Larry is undoubtedly, and I can't stress this enough, undoubtedly the leading expert on the collective bargaining agreement, and he has been teaching the materials to teams, agents, media, and students for over 20 years as an expert on the topic. Now, for the first time ever, he has an online course containing all of his material available for purchase to the general public. So, if you're looking to work in an NBA front office one day, this information is imperative to know. And by completing this course, you can not only learn the material, but you can become an expert in it as well. Larry Kuhn's CBA Mastery Course is presented by SBC and is a surefire way to put yourself in a position to land a killer job in the business of basketball. Registration is now open, so visit sportsbusinessclassroom.com today to take a step toward the career of your dreams. The Sports Business Classroom audio experience is brought to you by Hall Pass Media and Hall Pass Studios. Hall Pass Media is a full-service marketing agency that specializes in brand consulting, event management, digital marketing, and creative design. Hall Pass has a wide range of clients and partners that include the NBA Summer League, the NBA Coaches Association, and the basketball tournament, just to name a few. For more information, please visit hallpassnetwork.com. So when I first joined the SBC family in 2019 and got to Las Vegas and Summer League, I kept hearing about this one former student, and she was always referred to in the same way. Bo, go talk to Calida. She's great. You know who can handle this? Calida. She's great. Go tell Calida she's great. And so after a while of hearing this, I began to think her name was Calida She's Great, or even worse, Calida Cheese Great. I didn't know. But in the end, I did realize what all the praise was about. She is a fantastic former SBC student. And now if you watched NBA TV last night, you know she's a bit of a celebrity. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Calida. She's great. All right, Calida Taylor, congratulations. You are the winner of NBA TV's GM School. And, you know, like I've told you before, I was in the room when this whole thing happens, and I could feel the tension in the room. And I'm just a clown standing over on the sideline watching all these people that I know in this contest. You're in that moment. Your name's on the line. The cameras are pointed at you. It's you and Khan, who's also really talented. What was that moment like when Ben says you're the winner? What was going through your head? What was that feeling?
Well, I definitely thought that, it was a toss-up between me and Khan because, like, the judges, when they introed us, before they got to the actual decision, they walked through some of the feedback to each of us, and it wasn't clear who they thought would win. So
you're a little nervous.
Yes, I'm definitely a little nervous in the moment. And when they said my name, it just kind of I was like, wow, I won. Like, I just kept saying that to myself, like, wow, because I was relieved and excited and really happy.
So. Did you remember, did you say something to Khan? Do you remember, is it so fast that you're not even recalling what's happening?
Yeah, it's so fast. I don't even recall. I'm sure I acknowledged Khan, and I remember the other contestants when they came back on, the set or the stage or whatever. So yeah, so it was crazy.
Well, it was an intense week, so I imagine it was a pretty much a bonding experience for all of you guys that went through this competition, right?
Yeah, we definitely bonded. We had, dinners together, and we got to really know each other during the process, and it was really cool. The atmosphere was definitely competitive, but it was like a friendly competition. So
Well,
not so cutthroat. But after the camera stopped rolling, we were comparing notes and congratulating each other on different stuff. So it was cool.
Well, I feel like you guys are by nature to come to SBC, to put yourself out there, to want to learn like that, to put yourself into something like this with the NBA TV GM school. You guys are competitive by nature, right?
For sure. I mean, yeah, definitely competitive. But the tone and the tenor of the competition was definitely not nasty. It was cool. So it was good, healthy competition.
And you come away from this friends with everybody else, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. We still text each other.
Is
And
there an NBA TV GM school text thread?
yeah, for, for sure. And Khan's got podcasts and stuff going
Oh,
on.
yeah.
I've been on a couple of his podcasts. So yeah, we're cool.
What's interesting to me, and this is the way it's worked for my career, is that so when uh, I started with several people, and we're in our early 20s, and we're starting our career, and we're really ambitious. And now one of them's like the producer of Inside the NBA, and one of them's a vice president at Turner Sports, and so many people that are in such prestigious positions now. So I wonder, it's possible that you guys are either working together down the road or in the same profession competing against each other down the road, and this is something you guys look back and laugh on. Have you thought of that possibility that you guys will be either competitors or working together at some point?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, and we talked about it, just feeling like there's enough room for all of us. We all just need to keep going in our own paths and what we're doing.
Yeah, and it was interesting to me because you guys are displaying what you've learned, and you're almost auditioning, if you want to know the truth, and you're auditioning to people like Wes Wilcox
Yep.
and Renee and Billy. These are some talented people. Are you aware of that? Like the people that are receiving my information, these are some luminaries.
Yeah, definitely. And, especially with Billy, Renee, and Wes, they each have very, very strong experience and perspectives in the industry that I know I wouldn't otherwise have access to. So it was great being able we didn't talk with them a lot during the filming, but right after
Yeah.
everything wrapped, we did get a chance to talk to them, and it was really awesome.
What was that like? What's that moment like when you're like, we've gone through this process and now, okay, we know I won, but we're all wanting to learn from you at this point. What was that like when you're going up and talking to them afterwards?
It was great. I mean, they all were like so friendly and welcoming of questions and everything like that. So it was great to talk to them. We got a chance to just speak a little bit, like I talked to Billy and Wes a little bit about like dealing with the press and some of the other, aspects for the job.
Why is the press that bad, Calida? Why are you taking shots at us?
Not shocked, but like it's totally different for me. Like I don't have to deal with them, and like there can definitely be some missteps if you divulge too much information,
Sure.
the wrong thing. So like it's a whole nother aspect of the job that like I can do my cap sheets from home, but
Yep.
like you got to kind of have some experience with the press to get better at it. So it was good hearing their feedback about it.
I'll admit it's good advice. It's good advice to learn to deal with us. How about Renee? What sort of insights did she have to offer?
Yeah, I mean, Renee just being a player and being in the locker room, like she gave some feedback for sure about, just like when you say, oh, we have a family culture, like how do players receive that if they then get traded or whatnot? So like her feedback on some of those topics,
Oh,
like, oh, wow, like that's so true. Like you have to think about what you're saying. You can't just spit off those sayings that everyone says like, oh, we're a family, like how do you implement that as a GM? How do the players receive it? So it was great. She gave some really great feedback.
what's interesting to me is that you win this competition and then immediately you're back in learning mode almost, right?
Yeah.
Trying to learn from these people because you want to be in a position where you're working with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Always learning mode. And, for me, like there's kind of a cap on what you can learn until you really get in the trenches. So, I'm excited. I'm itching to actually get in the trenches and be able to learn more, because I'm just trying to take in whatever I can from the outside right now.
Keep your phone on. The calls are going to be coming, Calida. Keep your phone on. So I want to know, you're in the group with, I know the SBC experience from behind the curtains, and I know it from your perspective, at least somewhat. It's a talented field that you're going up against. I mean, these are some really bright minds. I've met all of them and I know all of them. These are talented folks. What do you think it says about you that you emerged the winner of this competition?
Well, I mean, like you said, everyone is so talented and has put in a lot of hours to, get to the place of understanding of the CBA and analytics and other things that we all have. So I think, like, for me, the one thing that I try to leverage and utilize is the fact that I do have more professional experience. Like, I quite frankly am older than a lot of the other contestants on the show, and even some of the people that come to SBC. And so, like, on the show, it kind of came out the way that I was able to handle some of the interviews. Being the interviewer, like, I've been interviewing people for jobs at my firm for many, many years. So once I kind of got over, like, oh, I'm in the same room with Jason Terry, that moment, once you kind of get over it, it's like, oh, I've been here before a lot. So I was able
Yeah.
So I think that that's just some of the ways I try to, use my experience to kind of perform at least at the top or toward the top of each challenge.
You make an interesting point that I don't know that I've really thought of, but it's an interesting point that SBC students could learn from as well, is that I remember very early in my career, like the first couple times being in a room with an NBA player, that I was like, wow. But then you have to be professional and you have to get the job done. And there's a switch that you flip, that you're able to flip. And I think that's an important thing to learn quickly and to be able to do. And you've apparently done that, right?
Yes, for sure. And I mean, SBC helped a lot with that, because the summer that I did SBC, we were in the same room with, coaches and with GMs and assistant GMs. And being at Summer League, you're in the same arena and spaces with players, even though, like, I didn't talk to a lot of players at SBC, but just that, like, okay, I'm in the industry. I'm kind of in an industry event,
Yeah.
and in the room with people, like, that helped a lot.
It's weird because it's not a skill you necessarily teach in college. You learn out there, but I really do think it's very, very important. Were you nervous going into the show at all? I mean, I know you've put a lot on the line for this career.
Yeah, I was definitely nervous. I've never done a TV show or a competition reality type show ever. So I was nervous from the basic, like, just, oh my gosh, I'm about to do a real show. And competition, I was nervous because, with SBC, like, I knew Khan. I listened to his podcast.
Yeah.
And all of that. So I knew that he was going to be, like, crazy tough competition. And Darius, Kat, and Ben, I had a chance to kind of, Google them and kind of find a little bit about them. So I was like, okay, you got someone who's on staff with a team, and you got someone. So it was, yeah, I was nervous.
You're in the deep end at this point. You're in the deep water.
For sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of talented people. What sort of preparation did you do for going on this show?
So before the show, a couple of weeks before the show, I had worked through, I do these NBA team snapshots. So, like, a 1-page summary of the positioning for a team leading into the trade deadline. And I'm working on a set now for the off season. So with the timing of the show filming, I had just finished that. So that was kind of an analytical prep where I was kind of dealing with stats and analytics for players across the league. I also took a look at the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, and kind of reviewed some of that. And I actually, believe it or not, I'm a total nerd. So I did look at my too.
Well, first of all, I just want you to know that us in the media, this is how we work. I'm a total nerd is how we're going to title this podcast. Okay.
And it's true. Like, man, if you hear my husband, like, he'll clown me all the time. Like, are you reading the collective bargaining agreement? Like, he thinks it's ridiculous. It probably is ridiculous. But I take a look at my SBC notes to kind of brush up on some of the nuances of the CBA, because I figured that they would probably give us some sort of trivia. Like, this type of show, you've got to do, like, trivia. It makes sense.
Yeah. And I saw some of the questions. And what's odd for me, and this is what I found in my job, which is basically, for people that don't know, I call the highlights for NBA.com, and I'm occasionally like an anchor in the afternoons doing the updates. So what I have to do is know the league's stories and storylines and what players are doing well and stuff like that. I have to know that. And what I found is once I get to a level of competency, it's about keeping up. It's like getting in fifth gear in a car and you're going. Is it similar for that in what you're preparing, or are you always first, second, third, fourth, fifth, start again, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or is it getting to fifth gear that's the key?
It's for me, it's getting the fifth gear that's the key. Now, I'll tell you, like with the pandemic and the kind of chaos of March and April, I kind of decelerated a little bit, from fifth gear to like fourth or third, but then
Sure.
back up, So that's for me,
Yeah.
getting up there, keeping up, and then like I also try to press myself. So like I've been focusing a lot on watching the games with an eye towards scouting. I'm not because that's an area that I want to learn more. So like, I'm always trying to add a little bit more. So I'm following people on Twitter that are giving like detailed scouting breakdowns of different plays. I'm watching the games now, pausing games or going back and rewatching stuff. So I'm always trying to push myself a little bit more.
Well, I tell you what, my ambition is certainly not to go where you're going, but I've gone to some high school games to see like high school stars play with NBA GMs before, a few different GMs, and I spent half the time I'm watching the game, and half the time I'm like, how are you watching the game? Like, what are you taking in? I want to learn what they're taking in, and I think that's sort of taught at SBC for you guys as well. It's not always just a GM, but it's actual scouts that are teaching you that to learn what they're looking for, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. That's a part of SBC, and it's one of the best parts to me. Like getting to the students. I know last year the students were able to broadcast. You know,
Yeah.
they did a rotation for that, and it's just awesome the way that SBC kind of introduces you to some of the more professional approaches to this stuff that we're doing as fans. They push you to be a professional or to start to think professionally about this. So
Um, Take me through a typical day on that show so people know sort of behind the scenes. Let's go behind the scenes, Kalida. What's a typical day like on that show?
so typical day started, I think, around 7 in the morning, maybe 7.
Woo!
Yeah, you get there.
That's not normal NBA hours.
Yeah. You do your hair and makeup, and then you kind of like stand around a lot. You wait for them to kind of get everything set
Now
up.
it's sounding like TV.
Yeah, I mean, we had our own green room, which I was like, whoa, like it was just a room, but I was like, this is very official. I felt very
Yeah.
official. So then when they were ready to start filming, like we walked into whichever set we were using, and we walked in a couple times so that they can get the different angles. So that was kind of interesting watching them, having to position the cameras and all that. And then we were told what the competition was, and for a lot of them, like with the draft, they just literally started filming. They were like, okay, sit down, we're doing the draft. All right, cameras rolling, let's go.
So you felt like, okay, guys, in 10 minutes we're going to do the draft. Prepare yourself mentally. We're going to do that. You felt like that was what it was going to be like, and instead it was just like you're sitting down. Hey, look over here. Draft. Go.
Yeah, and like they did. We were able to prepare for the draft a little bit in advance, but what they didn't give us was that time after they put the board up to sit at that table and actually map out stuff. So it was thrown into the fire, for that one. And then like with the interviews, we had to rotate our turn, so we were just in the green room alone for most of those days while other people
Yeah.
were, Jason, Terry, and all them. So.
Tell me about your relationship with the other contestants and what that's like, because I know that you guys are all competitive people, but I also know that you sort of supported each other as well.
Yeah, we did. I mean, the other contestants are awesome and super smart and like just as passionate as me. And like I was joking with my husband when I first went to SBC a couple years ago that like, man, I found my people because space at home are not as nerdy about it, like not
Yeah.
you know 12th or 13th man on this team or can recite some random trade, but like the SBC people can. So
Yes.
to be with other SBC people all week was super cool, and like we got along very well. We were very competitive, but it was a friendly type of competition, not like at your throats, not hostile at all.
And I know the first episode, they sort of started developing this Kalida Khan rivalry, didn't they? They did. I know that the producers did that, but it's probably true at some level, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, well, so number one, Khan and I, all of us are very competitive. So
Sure.
see the competition and you see that they're like awesome, you're like, okay, I've got to up my game. And I definitely felt that way with all of them. But I listened to Khan's podcasts a lot, so I knew that he knew a lot, you know, and he knew
Yeah.
what he was doing. So yeah, I feel like, man, I got to step it up.
Yeah, you get that feel. I mean, I know, like, even just listening to you guys talk, I'm amazed at some of the stuff that you guys can come up with. Um, Tell me a little bit about what your toughest challenge was. What was the one that made you go, okay, now this is tough?
Yeah. So, actually, the last interview was the one that I felt the most, where the judges were interviewing me, was the one where I felt the most like discombobulated during the interview. It's like I had prepped
Uh-huh.
for it, good going in, but they asked some very like pointed questions, and like not all the questions got on the show.
Sure.
But and then there was a moment where Billy kind of brought up my dad, so that the emotion that I felt actually, believe it or not, threw me off because I was kind of moving along with this process, like do, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, he made me reflect in the moment about something that I probably should have thought of before we started filming.
Tell me
So
about that moment. Tell me about that moment and your dad and everything like that.
yeah, so my dad, he passed away from cancer in 2009. So
Yep.
it's been a little while, but as anyone who's lost a family member that close can tell you, it's one of those things where you learn, you adapt, but that's always with you. So the way that I kind of cope with that in all of my good moments, my wedding and having my kid, I just kind of think about him beforehand and get the emotion out of the way so that I can actually enjoy the day. So I did not do that with the show.
First of
Um,
all, I like that you have a strategy for this.
yes, I had definitely have a strategy for this because I know how I am. So with the show, I did not work through that process. So then when Billy brought up my dad, that's when my brain was like, oh man, he would have loved this. Oh man, he would have loved this,
And it
And
sneaks up on you, doesn't it?
yeah, it sneaks up on you, and then you're like, oh my God, am I crying on TV? But it's cool. I mean, it's definitely something that, yeah, he would have loved this, and just like me going out of the box and doing this was something that right up his alley. It would have been right up his alley. So
Okay, so just mentally prepare yourself because I'm going to ask about your dad right now.
I'm ready.
What would he think about his little girl right now and all she's accomplished?
Man, he would be so proud. And like he was the type of person who shouted everything from the rooftop. So like,
Loud and proud.
yeah, loud and proud. It's like, oh, she got straight A's. She made the dean's list. Like everything was a big to do, right? So he would have been so proud. He probably would have hosted watch. Well, I don't know with COVID if he would have had watch parties, but outside of the pandemic, he would have had a big watch party.
Sure.
But all in all, like he is someone who always told us, like, you have to do whatever you want to do. If someone says that it's not okay for whatever reason, your gender or whatever, ignore them. Just do it.
Yeah.
So I definitely took that to heart, take that to heart every day, and just try to pursue my passions, and as crazy as they may be. So
Girl dad before it was a popular saying, right?
absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
that's really cool. Tell me a little bit about each of your competitors. I know it's an SBC thing. Tell me a little bit about each of them.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll start with Kat. Kat is someone who just had a awesome personality from day one. Like the first time I met her, she was just energetic and friendly, but then also knows her stuff. So
Yeah.
we're able to have some good basketball conversations about the NBA, which was super cool. And with Ben is like chill, like he's really like, and like on the show, I think it's that even keeled. It's a great
Yeah.
temperament.
Doesn't get rattled.
Yeah, it doesn't get rattled. But again, really knowledgeable, and like with him being on the coaching staff, that was super cool to kind of hear him talk a little bit, behind the scenes about what he does for Baylor. Darius also is pretty cool too. Like as far as like even keeled, right? Like he
Yeah.
keeps it mellow, and all of that. But like Darius, me and Khan had an awesome like couple hour discussion just about the league and basketball and Philly's team, and we were talking all about the Bulls, our hometown teams. So that was super cool. And then of course, like I said, Khan, he's got his hand in all kinds of stuff, both stateside and over in Turkey, which was really interesting to hear someone talk about how they bring the NBA to, their family's, home country. So it was really cool to hear him talk about that.
And you guys are obviously all very, very smart and successful. You guys have that chat about down the road, we may be competitors. Down the road, we may be on the same team working together. That's pretty exciting talk, isn't it?
It is. And I totally believe that. Like, I definitely think that there's enough space for all of us, and we just all need to keep going and focus on what we're doing. And yeah, we definitely brought it up. We could be working for each other, working against each other. It could be anything. So it's pretty exciting.
That's a fun talk because it really does happen. I know it's happened for me, with all the people that I came into the business with. Just so people know a little bit about your background, when did you get interested in basketball? And then going forward, what's your ultimate goal in the sport?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Chicago area and Central Illinois as a kid in the 90s. So,
Did they have a good basketball team there then?
pretty good. Yeah, Scottie Pippen. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so when I was for the first three-peat, I was just getting introduced to
For
the
the
game.
first three-peat. What a childhood.
And then the second three-peat, I was playing basketball and all that. So that's kind of my introduction and my love of the game. That's where it started. But my nerdiness started right around the time of the 99 lockout, actually, because I was wondering why there was no basketball. And so I was like reading the local papers and kind of reading about the labor negotiations and some of the details. And I was like, okay, there's a CBA and all of that. So from there, I kind of started to just kind of follow it as a fan, right? So like I would read ESPN, True Hoop, all of those early 2000s blogs that were coming out. And that's actually what introduced me to analytics and some of the more intelligent, the intelligista, and how they dealt with the game. So that pushed me. But really, I started thinking about this professionally a few years ago. After I had become a lawyer, I was saying, okay, how do I want to take these skills and what industry do I want to use them in? And I was like, well, I love the league. I'm following it on my free time. Why don't I work in the league? And that's when it started. And that's when I went to SBC a year or two after that. And the ball's been rolling ever since.
So, okay, now I'm going to give you your dream moment. Write your ticket. Any job you want in the world, where are you? What are you working? What's your job title?
Honestly, I could see myself in any NBA city. So, there's 30 different where are yous.
Okay. So it's just, so it's with an NBA team. It doesn't matter who necessarily.
Yeah, or the league. I mean, so for me, like what I want to do is I would love to work in a strategy type of role. So like with my job with the law firm, a lot of times when I'm doing deals, I'm kind of sitting in the middle of due diligence. I'm taking information from the real estate guys and the intellectual property guys. Like I want to go to, a team and like be able to sit in the middle and kind of synthesize the analytics, the scouting feedback, the CBA positioning, and help with the strategy of how to build a team.
So basically your job would be like the fulcrum. Everything goes. I got you. So you connect it all together. That's interesting. I'm curious to know your advice because I know you said you're a little older. You're not old like me. For people who are starting out in their careers in hoops, from your perspective, because you're starting to climb the ladder now, what should they be doing, and what have you learned so far?
So, I mean, I think that they should definitely be be intentional about setting aside the time to continually work on whatever your specialty is. So, those of us who aren't working in the league have jobs elsewhere because we all feel. So it can be easy to let your everyday life or your job kind of take over. So I know I have to set aside specific time to work on my cap sheets and do all that. But like a couple things I took from SBC that I think are really, really important is, I think that you have to go above and beyond the norm. So like for me, for early on, first couple of years, like I was reading Larry Kuhn's CBA FAQ and, just kind of thinking about it or talking with friends. But SBC taught me that you've got to actually produce, so I started doing my own cap sheets, which take a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to put those together from scratch, so I started doing stuff like that, and that's really helped me become more knowledgeable and given me an edge, I think, against the crowd. So
It's funny because I came away, and again, I mentioned I'm older than you, unfortunately. There's an old movie called Top Gun. And in this movie, it's the best of the best pilots come to this one school and they learn there together. And I sort of felt like SBC is voluntary Top Gun, where the
Yeah,
people that are the most passionate and the most knowledgeable and have the most desire come to one place to learn and test their skills and really improve their minds and try to achieve peak performance right there in that week.
for sure. It's Top Gun, and like, but even in within that setting, it's funny because I actually had the opportunity to intern with SBC the year after I went, so I got to see the program from the other perspective, and it's really funny. You can tell the students who were wrestling with the material on their own before they got there versus the students who were learning. As awesome as all of them are, there is a kind of a dichotomy, the people who are really, really wrestling with it, who are writing, who are, doing all of that stuff, and the people who aren't. So, I'm just still trying to find a way to continually kind of up the ante for myself.
What's the next step for you?
So, I mean, for me, like I said, I am going to continue with my team snapshots and maintaining my cap sheets and doing all the other stuff that I'm doing, on my own. But then also, I'm trying to, just kind of continue to meet people. With the pandemic, it makes it a little bit harder. But next year, if things open up, like I would love to go back to summer league, and continue to make those connections. So yeah, so I'm
But you want a job, don't you?
yeah, yeah.
I think your phone's going to start ringing. I think once people see you, I think your phone's going to start
I,
ringing.
I mean, I hope so. It's on and ready. It's charged up. So if it does ring, I'll be ready. So
You don't want me as your agent, but a cheerleader works. I mean,
yeah,
that's a role I can be in. Uh, so tell me realistically, what sort of a gig would make you raise your eyebrows? Is that strategy role?
yeah, for sure. I mean, but even beyond that. So if a team called and said, hey, like we don't really want you to kind of dip into the scouting and the analytics. We want you to just do CBA. We want you to do the player contracts or like all of that. I would totally,
Foot
totally.
in the door, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and like for me, it's also just an urgency to get the exposure generally, right? So like I want to go through a trade deadline. I want to go through an off season, because there's so much that I don't know that I'll only know once I'm able to do that, even if I'm just observing, in the back of the room.
Sure, sure. I mean, I think that's the thing is once you get in, and we found this in media and my friends' careers and my career, we found that you get in and then you find your way to where you're supposed to be and where you're most useful for the team. And those skills sort of shine, don't they?
Yes, definitely, definitely. And again, this is another place where SBC really, really helped because we got to hear from GMs and people who are running these teams and the basketball operations, and we got to hear what they value. And some of the main things that they value is just hard work and flexibility, right? So it's like if a group of chairs need to be moved for get up and do
Mm-hmm.
it. It's
Yeah.
of mentality, which I definitely have. So
I've told this story before, but I'll tell it to you now. Perhaps you haven't heard it. When I arrived at SBC in 2019, Sergio Milas walked me into the room and said, "Wait here in this luxury box for a minute." And I'm looking down on the arena. Nobody in the arena but one gentleman. It was an older gentleman, and he's just moving chairs and moving chairs. And I'm
or
like, you know who it was?
it was either Warren or Albert, I'm
It
sure.
was Warren.
Yep.
It was, and so this is a coach's agent who nobody's looking. He's not getting any extra credit for anybody. He doesn't need any extra credit from anybody. And in that quiet moment where nobody's looking, this is one of the industry leaders, absolute leaders of the industry, and he's still hustling in that quiet moment. And I'll never, ever, ever forget it. It hit me so hard that wow, these are the habits that this guy has.
Yeah, it's amazing and it's inspiring and it's a lesson that I take to heart.
Well, yeah, I think that's the thing. And so that's one of the last things I want to ask you. What are some habits that you've tried to develop that you want to take with you in your career and that you think are useful for you in your everyday life?
So I know one of the professional habits that I developed, just in my time as a lawyer is, you know, check, double check, and then triple check, So I know that sometimes the timing of things doesn't allow you maybe to get to the triple check, but just that mentality of nothing's ever really done unless you've checked it, a couple times.
Yeah.
I know that that's something that I will definitely take, wherever I go. And then also another thing that I've just kind of learned in a habit is, to just always be learning, right? It's kind of habitual because you have to build that time in. You have to take the time, and you have to take the time to sometimes just think through things and think about what are my questions like. So for me, if I don't have a question about something, that means that I'm not really engaging with the material. So like I always want to have a list of questions because that means I'm wrestling with the material, wrestling with the situation, and have something to explore to get better.
So it's your process, and if you don't have that step, you're not going through your process.
Right. Yeah. Or else I need to give myself more time to think about, to wrestle with it, or to get deeper. Right. Sometimes it's a matter of I'm being too surface level. Let me go deeper.
Okay. And then any particular resources you use, anything that you found useful as far as a resource?
Yeah. So I still use Larry's CBA FAQ.
He'll be thrilled to hear it.
I do. I really do. Because there's just different little nuggets in there. It's so detailed. It's amazing. But then also I go to Basketball Insiders for all of the salary information. And there are certain things that I know Eric Pincus maintains that. There are certain things that Eric notes on those team pages that if I can't quickly explain it, like, again, that's where the question comes in. Well, why does so-and-so have, this deadline coming up on his contract? Okay, he's, so it's that. So I wrestle with that a lot. And then other than that, like just I follow people on Twitter and I watch a lot of people's production and output, particularly people who are specializing in scouting and analytics, because I kind of consider them my teachers in those areas. So I try to learn a lot from them.
I love Eric Pincus, man. He's a
Oh,
bright guy. Absolutely. And he's a lot of fun. Last thing I'll ask you, remember my name, hire me when you get to the top. Okay. That's all I'm saying. You got me taken care of. Calida, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. So proud of you. I'm sure you're thrilled. What was it like when you got home to your family? That's my last thing for you.
oh, well, my husband asked me if I won, and of course I couldn't tell him that because we signed, it's not cool.
Yeah.
So he pretty much threatened to, he was like, okay, if you want to stay. And I was like, listen, you got to stop with this diva stuff, okay?
You're laying down the law with your husband.
He was so mad I wouldn't tell him if I won. So when I got home, it was just like, did you win? Did you win? And then, oh, we're gonna have to wait till the show comes out. But now that the show's airing, in this week, it's gonna be great that everyone can find out. So
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Well, congratulations. We're all thrilled for you. We're proud of you from your SBC family. And we look forward to what is next. And you will return our calls when you make it big time, right?
Of course.
Okay. We've got it here on tape. So that's fantastic. Thank you, Calida.
Thank you.
So thanks so much to Calida Taylor. As you can see, it's obviously an exciting time in her life, but a time she's really prepared for. She's put in the work, and now she is reaping the rewards. And as you heard in the episode, she's promised she's not going to big time us. She's going to stay in touch. So we're all excited about that. Good luck, Calida.